All right, welcome to this dresser build. In this how-to, we're going to be building this dresser here from start to scratch. So if you're interested, I actually modeled this entire dresser in 3D before I got started using a program called SketchUp. So I'll put a link down in the description if you want to watch that build process video where I generate the 3D model and then also the entire cut list as well. So me and my son worked on this together. It was a lot of fun in this project. What was your favorite part?
The drawer sliders.
Doing the drawer slides. So don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next build. All right, so we're gonna start here at the build process. So we're of course going off our set plans that we designed up in our sketch program. So we have our cut list here. So we're just over here to the table saw, and we're basically just gonna make these long cuts. There's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them to cut all those down, and then we'll go ahead and chop them all on the chop saw here in a minute. So you'll see me and my son here working. We're just gonna be making these on the table saw. So we're just ripping through all of the 1/2 inch here on the table saw. This was my first project that required a table saw, so I purchased it for this project. I've been wanting one for a while, so it's now nice to have. All right, that was all the 1/2 inch that's gonna be making up all the drawers, and now we're doing our second cut list. This is the 3/4 inch plywood, which is gonna be the sides and tops, and then the drawer faces as well. So same thing here. We're just ripping now through all of the 3/4 inch. And my son's helping me. I've taught him a little bit how to work with the slide there, and he was pretty excited about helping me rip these on the table saw. And then I got him here on the little jigsaw as well for some of his first cuts he's been making with that. All right, now my next cut I'm going to start doing all my rip cuts. But the first one is these two pieces, which are the sides of the dresser. This is a 3 foot 5 1/4. And my table saw will not rip something that wide. I can only go up to 32 inches on my table saw. So I'm gonna have to use my chop saw here and cut this in half. So we're just doing a couple of chop saws here. I have a compound, a sliding chop saw. So you can see I can slide out and get most of the board here. But right at the very end, if you just kind of lift up a little bit, you can get those. So I finished off those cuts, and now I'm just ripping down on the last little few pieces here on the table saw. Doing a couple of these rip-wise on the table saw to make sure I get my drawer faces all the exact same length. Remember, don't forget to, as you're doing all your rip cuts, add your labels here to your boards. Remember, you're going to have just stacks and stacks of boards that are all similar length, so it'll make your assembly a lot quicker. We're going to go ahead and do the rest of those rip cuts off camera. They're just all pretty repetitive, and then we'll be right back. And here's just the finished pile of cuts ready for assembling. All right, the next piece we're going to cut is these legs out, as I mentioned. So you can kind of see it's a little hard to see on camera here, I know, but basically we're going to cut this notch out. So I'm going to set my blade 1/4 inch tall and move it 1/2 inch away from the fence, and then just rip this cut all the way down. And then I'll just turn my board over and cut the other little notch off. Okay, we're going to be cutting the dado out of the drawer sides and the front. Again, we're not cutting it out of the back. So I don't have a dado blade for my table saw. So I've actually just got this is just a little trim router. And I've got a couple little bits. This one's just a 1/4 inch bit, which will cut the dado out. And then I don't have a fancy router table or anything. So I just have this little router piece I bought. I'll put a link down in the description for this little guy. But it works fine for cutting out these dados. So we're going to be running all of the side pieces through and all of the front pieces through to cut that dado out. So I've just measured up 1/4 inch, and then I made sure I set the fence to 1/4 inch so the blade comes out 1/4 inch. So let's go ahead and run these. So we're just running these through this little teeny table saw jig, I suppose you could call it. It works pretty well. The little table saw mount here, it actually comes with a little circular piece that you can drop right down on your trim router, and it fits down into this little white table and serves as a little mini router table. So it works pretty well for just doing small jobs. Okay, we're ready to assemble one of these drawers. So you can see on the router there, we actually did just a 1/4 round over just on the sides. So each of the sides of the drawers, that way there was nothing to snag on those when you pull those out. and we're going to be doing pocket hole joinery. So on the back side here, we're just going to do 2 pocket holes in this way, 2 pocket holes in this way, because you'll never see those pocket holes on the back. And on the front side, we're going to do them on the face of the drawer. So we're going to do 3, 1, 2, 3. Same thing over there, 1, 2, 3. The drawer will be pulled right here, so we want to make sure that's a little bit more solid. And then of course we'll have an entire face going in front of that, so you won't see any of those pocket holes either. So we'll drill those out and then assemble this one drawer, and you'll see how that's going to look. So you end up doing 1.5 million pocket holes. This is just a little jig that I bought, I believe at Harbor Freight. So I picked this one up and then mounted it on a piece of wood, which helps stabilize it. And then we go ahead and start to assemble the drawer here, piece by piece, in order to get everything assembled. I really like pocket hole joinery for the joints on these. It's really easy to use, and I highly recommend it. All right, we're getting ready to assemble the side here. So we just cut pocket holes all the way along the sides, and then a couple on the top, as we'll use these 2 top pocket holes to go up into our top of the drawer piece when we come down. And we have a 4x4 in the front. Just make sure you need to orientate your your 2x2 leg in the back, so that the your backing is going to fit into this slot. So make sure you get that right. Now I've just got a couple of spacers here on the bottom of the scrap 3/4 inch plywood, so that I can set that up on top, and that gives me a perfect. All right, we're now going to be attaching on all of our runners. The first one's 2 inches up, so we just made a little spacer here. We'll just drop this spacer in, set our next one, screw, space, screw, screw, screw. So we're going to run these all the way up, and then the ones on the back as well. So you want to just make sure you get that spacer the exact right size. My spacer was about a 1/16 shy, so when I actually ran these all the way up, my top reveal between those top 2 drawers was just a little bit too big. So in the end, I actually had to recut that top drawer face 1/4 inch larger than initially planned for, because my spacer was a little bit shy. So just make sure you double check that when you're... So we did it all one side and then flipped it over and then screwed in the other side. Also, just a note about the pocket hole joinery. It's the way the pocket holes are created is the screw themselves, the top part of the screw has a smooth shank. So when you screw those into the wood, it will actually pull the wood tight instead of trying to push the wood apart. So they're really kind of a clever way of doing joinery on cabinets. All the pocket holes end up hidden in the end because they're all on the insides or backs and fronts. If you want to check out more about pocket holes, Craig makes some great tools to work with those. For the top of the dresser, I'm going with a plywood sheet in the middle, and then I'm going to be doing the same 1x2s, but all with these mitered corners, like so. So this way I can have a nice solid wood outside and plywood in the middle. So I've laid all of my boards down here so that the bow is up. So this is the bottom side, so it's going to be flipped over to lay on top of the dresser. So I want that if there's a bow on the board, I want it to be crowned like that. So we're going to cut all these miters, and then we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to do pocket holes. So we'll do pocket holes to screw all this together and show you what that looks like here in a second. So here we're just gluing up and clamping together the dresser top so that can dry. And then here we're just cutting a few of the drawer bottoms. I'm using this little melamine. It's 1/4 inch, but has melamine on one side. And then just attaching these little runners on the sides. I'm ready to paint here, and I just want to show you a couple little tips. This is going to be the face of my drawers, and because I'm not going to be applying the little, you can buy this little tape that you sort of tape right along the end to make it look like hardwood on the end if you're using plywood. I'm not going to be using that because I'm going to be painting this entire thing anyway. So what you can do though, because plywood sometimes has a few holes when you rip it like this, like you can see right here, there's quite a big notch right here. So you can just get a little bit of spackle. This is just this flexible spackle that you can pick up. Whoops, you can pick up there at your hardware store. But you can just get a little bit of this, and this will just fill in the gaps really quick like. So you just spackle in there a little bit. And then that will go ahead and fill in any of your gaps like so. And then you go ahead and let that dry for an hour or something like that. And then come back with the sander. And last tip here is after you do your sanding, they sell this stuff. It's called tack cloth, T-A-C-K, I think. Maybe just T-A-C, I'm not sure. Tack cloth, but it's kind of a sticky type of cloth that has a little bit of a resin oil in it, and it will take out all of the sawdust. So if you're planning on painting or staining your dresser, then you want to go ahead and just take this tack cloth, and after you've sanded, just run this right over the face of all of your dresser, and it will just take out all of the fine sawdust so that when you go ahead and paint, either with a sprayer or a roller, you won't have all that little sawdust rolling up inside of your paint. So grab you some tack cloth. That does a really great job of just getting rid of all that fine sawdust. So I'll go back to Time Warp here, and I'm just going to go ahead and just paint this. This is the finished, that's the back side. I guess I'll take you around so you can see. This is what it looks like right now with ready for paint. All right, the roller I'm using is actually a foam roller, and so instead of the traditional like 1/4 or 3/8 nap, it's actually just this little foam, which works really great for like cabinets and doors and things like that. So let's go ahead and get started. So just painting here, it's definitely my least favorite part of the project. I wish I had a little paint sprayer. This would go on a lot nicer and smoother with the paint sprayer. But that's a little item that I don't yet have, so maybe in the future I'll pick up a paint sprayer. But after a couple of coats, it went on pretty smooth and not too much work with little paint. As long as you use those foam rollers, they're meant for really hard surfaces or really, really smooth. So that's kind of what it looks like after the first couple coats. All right, we are going to apply a little bit of a sealer to the inside only. This is just an acrylic sealer. You could use any sort of sealer you want. I'm just going to do a quick coat of this spray on. You could use something like polyurethane with a brush as well. So I'm going to only be doing the interior of the drawers rather, just to help seal the wood on the interior. So I'm going to hurry and spray these, and then we'll be ready to mount the drawers in the dresser. One added benefit of spraying is that it'll actually help your clothes smell less like wood. I've had made dressers in the past where if you have clothes sit right on the wood, they'll kind of absorb some of that smell. So a sealer will help protect against that as well. A couple of quick little tips here on mounting these slides. So I've got here just a drawer face sitting there and there so you can see. Remember, my drawer faces are going to kind of run flush like that. They're going to inset. So I've just got an 1/8 of an inch spacer here in the bottom to simulate kind of that reveal. There'll be an 1/8 inch all the way around. But the drawer actually sits on the inside of this. The drawer is up another 1/8 of an inch behind the face. So down here, I've got a drawer just sitting in here with, this is just a 1/4 inch spacer there that it's sitting on to kind of show you this. So I want to mount these little rails. The ones I got here are these 3-fold rails. I'll see if I can pull this out on camera here. You can see they telescope out into 3 separate rails. They're a little bit pricey, but they're really, really nice. So the way these are going to go, you mount the thick side here will go against the back, and the skinny pole, the skinny long rail goes against your drawer face there. But I want to mount these guys right in the middle of my drawers like this. So these drawers are 6-inch drawers from top to bottom, but you have to remember they also sit up 1/4 of an inch. So basically when I'm doing my measuring here, I'll just take a line right off of this point and come up 3 1/4, and that is the exact center point where that rail will mount right here. So I'm gonna make a little jig here that is basically 3/4 inch thick. It runs up, and then it'll also automatically set the height. So I can just set that right here on each of these stretchers, and then just throw on my little drawer slide there, and then just screw it into place. It'll be the right height and depth from the front for every single one. Okay, so here's a little jig I've made. You can see it's just a little 3/4 inch. So what you do is that's the same width, remember, as the face of the drawer. So you just get this up flush. Notice how mine's slightly inset, maybe an 1/8 of an inch, because I have a little rounded corner right there. So you just flush that up at the front. This is the exact height, so when I set my rail on here, I just slip the rail on, and then I slide it up to the front till it clicks like that, and then that's right where it's gonna get screwed in. Okay, one little adjustment I've made here. So I cut off the toe. You probably noticed but I cut off this toe right here, and that just allows me to take this rail and I can still butt it all the way up against that little teeny tiny lip, and then I can now telescope out over the top of it. So you need to be able to telescope out because you have 3 holes you want to screw in, so you have to telescope. There's the back one, and then you move the middle one along a little ways, and we can find, whoops, let's pull this out, find that middle hole. So there's a middle hole right there. And then in order to get to the front hole, we have to telescope all 3 all the way out. You can see this very, very front one right here. And there it is right there. It's kind of hard to see, but you have to telescope all 3 of them out in order to get to that front hole. So that's one little adjustment I make to make it really easy to get to those. So back in time warp here, me and my son are just putting on the little drawer slides. That jig only took me, I don't know, 90 seconds to make. I just measured my distance and cut it. And it really made putting on these slides really, really easy. And it actually went a lot better than I thought. So we just dropped that in, dropped a level on, and then just screw, screw, screw. So we put all these slides on one by one, and then the next little portion here, we're going to add the rails on drawers. Okay, we have all the sides done. Now, in order to screw in the part that goes into the drawer, it's really a lot easier if you just take out the inner plate. So what you can do here is when you telescope this guy all the way out, I'll show you here on the inside, there's a little teeny notch right there. See that little plastic thing? You pull that plastic thing down, and then you can just pull this inner rail all the way out, like I've done on this bottom one. And then all I've done here is I just made me a little easy spacer like this, so that I can just slide that on my drawer. I'm just going to take this down and just butt it right on top, and then the front here just butts up right here. So I just make sure that's level there, hit my block, and then screw, screw, screw. Flip it over, do the other side, and then I can just put all the drawers back in, and they'll all be set exactly at the right height. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll go ahead and attach the faces. So really not a lot to say here. Again, making that little jig just like in the last video really made adding these rails on the drawers go so fast. I didn't have to measure anything. I just set it up, locked it in place, and screw, screw, screw. So I'll just let this run here for a few more seconds in time warp, and then we'll jump over to the next portion. And here's just a quick finished shot of all the drawers now in place with the slides. Okay, for attaching the drawer face here, there's a couple different methods, but because I want the exact same reveal all the way around, I have pretty tight tolerances, so I know it's 1/8 of an inch. But a nice trick I picked up on another video is you just get a stack of cards and you just get them all there in the top, and then you divide your stack in half. So then you can just pop your face off here, and then you just set half a stack there, half a stack there, and then when they go back in here, you'll have the same reveal on the bottom and the top. You do the same thing for the sides. So once you have your reveal there, I would start with the bottom drawer and move your way up. You'll see here on time warp, because you're going to reach back and then just screw in from the back side. So if you work your way up, you'll always have a place to screw from. So we'll put that in time warp and we'll get these all set. So here we are just attaching each of these drawer faces rather, one by one. We did a little bit of glue, and then we just got our cards, put a little clamp on. I'm using this little box there just to prevent the clamp from mucking up the paint, because it's only a couple of days old on the paint. Just another tip, as you're screwing back through from the back side, definitely set your, I'm pre-drilling all of the holes, so make sure you set your drill bit to the length so that you don't accidentally drill all the way throughout the face of the drawer. So a lot of people will wrap a little piece of tape, which is what we did, around the drill bit, just so you can get that length correct and not accidentally drill too far. It's really easy. And then last here, just ran a bead of glue around the top of the drawer top, screwing that in using our pocket holes we created earlier, and then a few screws up through those runners. All right, we have reached the last phase, and that is to install our poles. So my wife has just picked out these little wood ones. She wanted a specific color, so she's painted them. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to measure out. We want them right in the center of the drawer. So we'll measure out this way, divide by 2, measure out this way, divide by 2. And that's going to give us our center. And then I'm going to run all of the poles off of these top 2 drawers. So I'll center the top 2, and then each subsequent drawer is just going to run in a line all the way down and a line all the way down. So in order to do that, once I have my center mark, I'll just pull over my speed square, drop that on there, and come down the exact amount, make a dot. So I'm just going to make dots all the way down, and then I'll be able to drill all the way through these to get the poles going. So that's how we're going to do that. One last little tip here, when you're screwing in, or rather drilling out these holes for your drawer stops, you can see I started clamping on a piece of backer wood, just so when I drill through, there's something to drill into. That will help prevent the tear out in the backside. Then I just screw through here, put on all of the drawer stops that my wife has painted up, and you can see here what the little finished look of the dresser looks like. And while I have it here in my garage, and then I'll show you here in just a second the finished buttoned up look